We're going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII. But first of all, I haven't been able to keep up with my schedule properly, and that's partly because I've been ill. And, with the kids out of school, it's hard to get these videos out. But luckily, we've got Berryman, who came in and gave me a script so that I could actually get one recorded for you, which is great. If you want to see more about Final Fantasy the remake, then watch Berryman's top 10 things that could have made Final Fantasy VII's remake better. I'll leave a link to that video in the description and possibly like a comment somewhere. So yeah, thank you Berryman, it was a great help. And another thing that's holding me back is I'm actually working on a big project right now, which is taking up a lot of my time and I didn't expect it to. I'm having issues with the recording process. Berryman knows about that firsthand because he's helping me, so are some other YouTubers. It's kind of a big collaboration. You'll know what I mean. It's to go with my Willinese Facts videos, and it'll be quite fun to watch, I hope, and I hope you enjoy it. So without any further delay, thank you very much Berryman, and here is top 10 fast facts about Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was originally going to be a 2D game for the Super Nintendo, but unfortunately the staff were busy working on Chrono Trigger, which delayed the production of Final Fantasy VII. Which strangely, Chrono Trigger was actually the first video done by the game theorists, MatPack. So if that was flipped over and the staff focused on Final Fantasy, maybe the first actual game theorist video would have been on Final Fantasy VII instead. Square decided to move the game from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation, mostly because of the advantages with the CD-ROM over the cartridges. So the original idea with Final Fantasy VII was actually pitched as a detective game, with the main character being Detective Joe. And if some of you don't already know, then I'm a voice actor for Sinister RP's channel on Darkwild. I'm a police officer, so if I get promoted, I could end up becoming Detective Joe. I guess we'll have to keep watching to find out, won't we? Final Fantasy VII that was released in North America and Europe was very different to the one that was released in Japan. And I'm not just talking about the occasional tweaks in gameplay and, well, bad translations. Some of the differences including several areas of the gameplay being a lot more difficult with new bosses being added. The random battle encounter rates were cut down, and materia was made easier to be swapped between players. There was even new flashbacks added in, one of Tifa meeting the semi-conscious Cloud on a train station, and another where Cloud and Zack were escaping from Nibelheim. Final Fantasy VII's advertising campaign in the US cost $100 million, and it was spent over 3 months. This marketing campaign consisted of 3 30-second TV ads, which were seen on Saturday Night Live, The Simpsons, and on the channels ESPN and MTV. And it included printed ads for magazines and the DC and Marvel comics. $45 million went into the development of the game, which meant that more than 2/3 of the total budget went on advertising, which made it the most expensive game release of all time until Star Wars: The Old Republic in 2011. During the scene where the Sister Ray is about to fire at Diamond Weapon, a voice can be heard over the intercom which can barely be heard due to the music that's playing over it, but this can actually be heard while viewing the cutscenes in the video clips on the PC version. There are actually 5 other examples of this sort of vocalization in the game, where Midgar's Sector 7 plate is collapsing into the slum. With this, the residents of the slum give a frightened scream. President Shimura observes the chaos below from his top floor office in Shimura Tower while listening to opera music. The sounds of pilots or air traffic control can be heard when Cloud first arrives in Junyuan Airport. During the Safer Sephiroth battle, One Winged Angel has vocalized lyrics. And lastly, children's laughter can be heard as the epilogue sequence draws to a close. These make Final Fantasy VII the first game in the series to have audible voice acting, but the voice actors are unknown and were not named in the credits. After the new millennium, Yoshinori Kaitse and Tetsuya Nomura were approached and asked for a game that could be expanded across multiple platforms and mediums, which led to the creation of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. To date, the compilation includes 2 mobile phone games, a prequel and a sequel, a full CGI film, an OVA and several short novellas. Now, although the games within the collection have expanded the story of Final Fantasy VII, it was actually met with mixed reactions from the fans. Final Fantasy X and VII are set in the same galaxy, just not on the same planet. Scenario writer Kazuo Nojima, along with the director Yoshinori, has stated in the Final Fantasy X-2 Ultimania interview that Spira from Final Fantasy X is the ancestor civilization that colonized the planet of Final Fantasy VII. This is reinforced by Shinra's mention of potentially harvesting the Far Plane as an energy source, which his descendants would eventually go on to do with the life stream many centuries later, with the Shinra Electric Power Company. Ares Gainsborough might be the most notorious party member to die in a Final Fantasy, but she's hardly the first. Party member elimination actually begins just as the series began to write actual plot lines for its adventures with Final Fantasy II, even though it was only released in Japan. Even as a title on an 8-bit Nintendo, Final Fantasy II was outright vicious when it comes to character deaths. Much of the cast is eliminated, including most of the playable characters. Even large areas of the world map are destroyed by the villain with a tornado after he conquers Hell. One Winged Angel is the most popular song to have come from a game. Even folks who have never played Final Fantasy have likely heard this song at one point. As unique as the song is, the inspiration comes from a pretty interesting source. In fact, the opening riff is a homage to Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. Many of the ideas Squaresoft had when developing Final Fantasy VII never actually made it into the actual game. Not being one to leave a good idea unused, the company would actually recycle these ideas for other game concepts. The vision of Final Fantasy VII to be used as a detective tale set in the near future New York would later be used for the idea of Parasite Eve. Another one of the earlier pitched scripts for Final Fantasy VII went on to become Xenogears. And I've noticed you've put this in there, Berryman, but I've got something to say about it. Final Fantasy VIII's villain, Ida Kramer, was originally intended for use on Final Fantasy VII. Now, although that might be correct, I don't claim to have loads of knowledge on Final Fantasy VII, but I have played a lot of Final Fantasy VIII. Now, Ida Kramer was not the villain. She was being possessed throughout the entire Disc 1. I can't remember how far into it came, but she was actually the owner of an orphanage and looked after loads of children. Those children turned out to be the main characters that you play as, and they have no memory of that until later on in the game. And after all this is found out, I mean, she's more than happy to help them, but she couldn't when she's possessed. I don't consider Ida Kramer a villain at all. Just saying. And I know Jacob Billet's probably going to watch this. He's probably laughing at Berryman or something right now. So, Berryman's actually left you a fact, which I've looked up as well. Zack and Cloud are not clones. However, they do have Genova cells infused with Mako in them, but this was done by Professor Hojo to try to turn them into Sephiroth clones. This experiment failed, but this is where the line of the failed experiment comes from. Anyway, I hope you both enjoyed that, and I hope everyone else enjoyed that as well. So there's 11 facts about Final Fantasy VII. Thank you very much, Berryman, for writing the whole script for me. I edited it along the way, I'm sorry. And just remember, Berryman's video is in the description below to check out more about the remake of Final Fantasy VII, rather than just it generally. So if you like this video, then well, tell YouTube and click that like button, and if you want to see more from me, then click the subscribe button. Let me know what you want to see as well. So yeah, have a great day. See you around. Hey, so we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. Millennium Yoshinori Kites. Berryman, you could have put phonetics in here for me. A prequel. Scenario writer. God's sake, Berryman. Kazun Shingi Nojima. Scenario writer Kazun Shinki. That's not even right. Scenario writer. I don't even know what's after, so I'm doing that. Scenario writer Kazun Shingi. Scenario writer Kazun Shingi Nojima. Scenario writer Kazu Shingi Nojima. Scenario writer Kazu Shingi. Scenario writer Kazu Shingi. You're. No.